Amalay, and you're watching the Soulestic Intelligence podcast. And this is part two of a series I have going regarding the digital age or AI technology expansion. So, we're going to be looking at that. In my first part of the series, I went over I went over six different mechanisms of things that we've already bought into or are currently buying into as far as digital things kind of being integrated into our society. And now we are going to be, and the impact of that, just a little bit of background. So if you want to start with that, that's great. You don't have to listen to that right now. But it is a part of building the awareness around this digital age. And I think that's really what I'm going to start calling it. It's the digital age. So today I am going to be going over some of the historical similarities of different ages, maybe some stories that come to mind, and maybe we'll even interact with AI and ask it questions. So typically I am more of a flow state kind of gal. I like to go with the flow and just as information comes to me, share that with you guys. So if you're a very structured person, this may be a little interesting for you, but hopefully it lands and you get some good information out of this. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about before we get too carried away into the historical information is some of the tech integrations of the AI robot takeover. I don't really like using that. It's really kind of a fear language and it's expressing fear. And I think we really need to, as we're going in and we're studying the AI digital impact that it has had on humans, which is really the core reason of why I'm doing this, is right now in the country or maybe even in the world, there is this really high level of fear or insecurity that is going on. And it has only been accelerated since the 2020 quarantine situation that we had with COVID. But that was also this really unique time where we started buying in more to technology and more into, and I'll go over that too. So that is definitely a core. I didn't ruin my thing. I was getting a phone call. Okay. Uh, so I asked for a basis of the seven tech integrations, and I I ask AI, and to see you. Thank you for joining. To see you. Thank you for joining. We're going to be talking about the seven tech integrations. So let me find it here. All right. So the first one is communication. So communication, as far as AI or robots are concerned, the first one starts with the AI voice assistant. So think Alexa. Alexa is a huge integration that we invited into our homes. Most of us, I have not, but most of us have. Hey Alexa, do this. Hey Siri, give me directions to wherever. You're just, hey Siri, hey Alexa. So communication, as we're like integrating into these AI voice, hi Witboyette, as we're integrating into this communication with AI, this is one of the parts that a lot of people have already purchased into. Like people went out and they bought their Alexas. They went out on their phones. They have Siri, and I can't remember. I think it's Cortana. Oh, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. I think it's Cortana. I don't have like Google phone, or what's the other one? Galaxy. I don't have those ones, so I don't know if there's like a different name for them, but most of us have iPhones, and so Siri is one of those that we can say, "Hey Siri," and give it directions. So it's no different than using ChatGPT as your device to communicate through AI to get you information that you need. And so it's with this buy in of these technologies, that being Alexa, Siri, Cortana, or whatever the others are named, the AI voice assistants were one of the pieces. Um, there's, and ChatGPT really isn't a voice assistant as much as it is a neuro neuro language model. So ChatGPT, what's that one called? I have it. It's not as cool as ChatGPT. I don't like it as much, but it's the one for Microsoft. I don't remember which one that one's called. Um, and then also deepfakes. So you can basically have somebody's face on somebody else's face, and you can make them say things. I don't know if you guys have probably seen things like that, but where you can make it look like, oh yeah, this person is talking. So there's AI technology out there that can communicate, and it makes it look like it's the actual real person, and it isn't. And you can kind of tell. There's like little tells that you can tell, but if you were naive to it, you might think it's real. I see a lot of people having that conversation where the the AI that's coming out is a little grotesque and terrifying to them. And I think that's all partly based on your algorithm. So you've got to maintain your algorithm really well. You've got to maintain your garden, basically. Um, so this is how language right now is being shifted. It's being shaped and it's being reprogrammed using these AI systems. So, like I said, Alexa, Cortana, Siri, and ChatGPT, and what's the other one called? Um, I have it for school. It's Microsoft version, but I can't remember. Anyways, so that's part of the communication. So that's part one of the 7 tech integrations. The next one is finances. So, back in the day, not very many, when I was born, not very many people had credit cards. It was very unheard of to even have a credit card. It was unheard of to, like, digital currency was not even a thing. It wasn't even something that, it may have been something that was thought of. It might have been something that was in sci fi books or movies, but we did not have the digital currencies that we do now. Or if we did, it was like, we didn't even have debit cards, you guys. We had cash. Cash was king, paper was king, gold and silver. I don't even think were as popular as they are now. I think with the digital currencies, a lot more people are drawn to the gold and the silver and other precious metals as a form of tangible currency because the use of digital currency gives it's the digital age. It's hard to buy into it. People had a hard time buying into, oh, I can buy something online and it will definitely come to me. So e-commerce itself was something that people didn't want to buy into. Okay, but now we have finances. So think cryptocurrencies, think algorithmic trading, CBDCs, which is central bank digital currencies, which is also being discussed, and then AI fraud detection. I don't know if you guys have ever used your debit card and then all of a sudden you get this text from your bank and it's like, hey, did you approve this purchase from, and then it has the name of wherever that purchase is coming from. Did you approve this? So you have this fraud detection as well. And with that, I think there's a lot of insecurity with people thinking that the digital currencies, particularly when it comes to cryptocurrencies and these manufactured ones, I can see why people would hold, like, they don't know what the true value is in that. So they would kind of hold that. There's a caution in buying into that digital currency. So you have to think like what really is currency, what really is money. And for me, the way that I look at it, money is simply an energy. It is a way that you can trade services or tangible goods for a certain holding value. So whatever your currency that you are carrying has to have some holding value, and it also has to have buy-in from the places that you would be trading that currency with, whether it's digital or analog or a tangible or intangible currency. The next tech integration is healthcare. So healthcare, I remember being really skeptical of the biometrics. So giving your blood and having them test everything, and then having this whole biometric testing done. And then there was like if you do this biometric testing, then you'll get this certain discount on your health insurance every month for the year. And so you'd go in and they would test and they would see like how's your blood looking? Are you healthy? And kind of go over all of that stuff there. So now with healthcare, we're looking at having predictive diagnostics. We're looking at robot surgery. So there's a lot. I know that there's what's it called? It's like gamma knife surgery for brain surgery, where it's non-invasive, meaning like they don't cut your brain open, but they do target like certain parts of your brain that need, and they're sending in these gamma rays in order to like address like tumors or cancers or whatever else the surgeon sees fit to do that. So you have these robot surgeries, and what comes to mind when I think of that is I loved The Fifth Element when it came out. I think that's such a fantastic movie, but the devices that they had, where they were even putting the Fifth Element together, it was this this tube, and then they had the arm, and then they were using the DNA to restructure the body into something. And so, as I'm thinking like robotic surgery, I'm thinking of things like that, like where they're going to be able to use maybe living components and like restructure bones and restructure all that kind of stuff. Other things are gene editing via AI. So, gene editing is something else that's going on. I know I have a friend who's a biologist, and he was telling me all of the things that they do at the Oregon State University, which is it's a major biological and engineering centered school. So if you wanted to go to school for engineering, or if you wanted to go to school for biology, that would be the place that you would want to go if you were looking at schools to do that. They're very well known for that kind of information. But he was telling me that they're taking all kinds of different genes from different species, and they're putting it into other species. So they have like the spider gene and they put it into fish, or, kind of be really creative about what you think can be used. But so gene editing or gene characteristics the genetics are being kind of, well, let's see if we put it into this, what will happen? Let's see if we put it into this, what will happen? And even further still, like I had a lot of hesitation about it, but like the mRNA vaccine, which, was it was launched very quickly. So I think a lot of people were very hesitant to buy into that, because there was a lot of branding and marketing that went around it. And for people that have a little bit more science background, they were a little bit more cautious of what is this? What am I putting in my body? What am I consenting to? Which is a normal maintain your human sovereignty method when we're talking about technology and we're talking about these things. The next piece is mental health chatbots. So I even use ChatGPT kind of to that extreme. If I am dealing with this situation, here's all the facts, and what are different ways that I could manage that and see like what different options or what different outcomes can I look at this, or is there a way that I can look at this in a different lens that I'm maybe blind to. And so I think mental health chatbots, but even more still, like beyond healthcare, we're looking at chatbots in business. And right now, it's a really big booming business is adding AI into your business. And so that we're going to see a rise in that. So if you're looking for an edge and to be ahead of the program, definitely start looking into becoming some sort of AI tech manager position, because that is going to be a rising trend in business. And I think that if you're looking for some sort of edge, that might help you if you want to be in that. Otherwise, I would recommend learning skills that are hands on. So, learning how to make your own bread, learning how to garden, learning how, while the risk is low, because gardening, there's a risk to it. It may not grow, or it may not grow right, or it may die, or whatever. And the more that you are experienced in gardening and doing that, then the more you'll know, oh, okay, if I don't add calcium to my tomatoes, I'm going to get blossom end rot. Or if I don't treat my cucumbers or my squash, if I don't go in there and force pollinate, or if I don't go in there and like treat beforehand, I'm going to have to deal with powdery mildew or this beetle or this pest or that pest. And so the sooner that you can get in and learn those kind of skills, the better. Also, animal husbandry, if you're new to the job market or you're looking at changing industries, things that are hands on that robots are not going to be able to do. So, think plumbing issues, because we all need plumbing, electricity, like we're going to still need electricity if we're going to be as digitally integrated, doing things around the house, like I said, gardening, learning, cooking methods. I personally, one of my hobbies is canning. I love canning, so I do that every year. I make, I have certain things that I make every year, and then as time permits and as the peak of freshness is for whatever the item is, I go out and I get it and I can it or put it in the freezer. So those are little things that you can do to hedge yourself a little bit against some of that robotic fear business. Anyways, back to healthcare. So, mental health chatbots are another thing. And then the question is, the question here that you're going to be in as far as healthcare is, are you going to be trusting a machine, or with your body or with your soul, and how far are you going to plug in and integrate to that? So, I talk about, you have this plug, and you can think of plugging it into like a divine source, or you can think about plugging it into AI or virtual reality or social media, or wherever you're plugging your energy into. That's your payment of attention, and that attention, like I said in part one, the attention is your most valuable resource. Like, everything wants your attention. Just think about what is asking for your attention, what is begging to be watched. You think about marketing, and you think about like Netflix. They want those eyeballs. They want your eyeballs focused in on them. Are you watching Netflix? Are you watching Max? Are you watching YouTube? Like, where's your attention? Where is it pointed to, and how are they responding? Like, they're going to like that you're paying attention to them. They look at box office sales. They look at sales when a comedian is going on tour. Like, how many sales did we get? And so your, like, literally your attention is where you're going to be focusing your money or your energy. And so just think about where you're trusting your sovereignty and your agency as you're plugging in. Are you plugging in to yourself and your source? Or are you plugging into all these other digital outputs that are desiring your attention? So just think about that. You are valuable because of that. The next piece of the seven tech integrations is surveillance and policy. Sorry, policing. Facial recognition is huge. Um, our phones can be used to unlock our. We can use that to unlock our phones. Predictive policing, the algorithms, all the information out there. You know, when 2011, 9/11 happened, that was a huge. There was a huge security campaign that went out, and so we have all of these facilities that are housing all of this information, and they're huge facilities that are housing that. And so when we look at policing, that is part of that predictive policing. They have all this information, and there's a lot of information. Everything that you do, I don't want to say CSI because I think that's wrong, but I watched this I went through a phase last year where I was watching all of these serial killer shows, and I can't remember the name of the channel now. It had a wolf as its logo, but I was watching all of these where they're like trying to solve murders, and it was interesting in seeing how they're using technology to profile people. So some people did it really sloppily, and they would go out and do whatever their act was. They would go and kill somebody, and then they would go onto their computer and they would say how to decompose a body quickly, or you know, like they would basically be asking Google search engine. So it's not unlike asking ChatGPT or asking Siri or whatever. But they would go through and be based on the like it's there's a history of all of that. So your like I said, your information is being categorized. It's being database, so it's always there to go on, and it's being used to help solve these, whatever it doesn't have to be a murder, it can be anything really that they're looking to get answers on. But they're going to look at your search history to see, what were you searching for? Is there a clue here that would tie you into being the one that is actually the one that committed this crime? And then other surveillance or policing are drones. Drones were huge back in 2001. That's when they really started getting big. And then we talked about mass data collection. So even as you're like searching and browsing the internet with your phone or on your computer or on your iPad or whatever technology that you're using to search for things, that is all being data collected. So AI essentially can be used as this watcher or this warden of what is going on with this person. Okay, number 5 is workforce and labor. And I did talk a little bit more about this in the last episode, or the part 1 of the series. But automation is a huge one. Gig economy surveillance, AI hiring tools. I don't know if you've tried to get a job or anything like that lately, but you have to get past these AI HR bots. And really, there is this grand push into using AI as much as possible to reduce the amount of labor in a business, but then also to help assist. So you're adding this non-human element into the hiring process, into the HR process, and then also with adding this automation in there, and I'll get into talking about this because we're going to be talking about the historical similarities of the digital age and other situations. But job displacement is one other piece that I think a lot of people are very concerned about. Is if if AI takes over, my role, where does that leave me as a human? And how am I going to take care of my family? So there's a lot of just different questions. How am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to take care of my family? And so there's a little bit of fear, concern about losing that job. And it also, there's a lot of shifts that go into the job. So, whereas in the past it was proximity to a job determined whether or not you would have that job. So, before 2020, I mean, it was slightly there, but not on the degree that it is now. But before the 2000s, it was very rare for you to have a job that was remote, unless it was like some sort of writing thing. And even then, you could be remote, but you still had to like report into a business. Email did help kind of bridge that a little bit further. And then now we've got all of these social media and meeting apps that we can use in order to communicate with teams or with individuals. So there's a little bit more connection there with using digital resources to make that happen. And then there's also hybrid jobs. So this was there was a big boom of this in 2020 when there was quarantine, but things still had to operate. So a lot of jobs went from meeting on site to having remote positions from home. And when quarantine ended, then so did that like need for that, and it kind of slowly reintegrated into this hybrid situation instead of being a permanently on-site situation. So the question here is labor evolving or is it being eradicated? And I don't think that it's going to be eradicated as much as it's going to shift and morph into a new dynamic in the future. Okay, number 6 is social and emotional life. So this is another tech integration that has shifted as we're introducing the digital age. So things like AI boyfriends and girlfriends, there's apps out there that will be your AI boyfriend or girlfriend, virtual companions, emotional manipulation via the algorithm. So based on your history, companies can use that history and that information to target their audience. And what do I mean by that? If you're out there and you're buying Choco Lonely chocolate bars, and AI knows that you're purchasing that because of your Amazon information history, it's looking at that and it's saying, oh, maybe this person might be really emotional. And it looks like from all of the information that we're gathering, that's a single person. And so we're gonna target our dating site to this person and see like if we continue targeting that person over and over again, if they become a paying customer. So your the mass data collection that is happening is is feeding into this algorithm, and it's going to be used as kind of an emotional manipulation tactic to see if you'll buy into whatever purchase. One of the things that I saw or I see are these um, are these like level up games. I can't remember the name of what they're called, but it's like a game where you start at level 1 and then it like slowly gets more and more difficult. It gets to be like this higher echelon. So I play Monopoly Go, and it started at level 1. It was really easy, but the the monetary stuff that you got it over time it like levels you up. So think like I can't remember the first one, but I remember back in 2008 when Facebook had just started. In fact, I was resistant to even getting a Facebook. I had a MySpace, but I was resistant to getting a Facebook. And I can't remember exactly the reason why, but it's just how I was. I was always resistant to things in the beginning. I'm just like, I don't know about that. I'm having a good time, whatever. But they had this game. It was like Mafia Wars. I don't even know if it's still around, but they had this game that was like Mafia Wars. And it was like I said, it's this level up game, kind of like a Candy Crush. That was a really, really popular one. So these this mafia game, and this Candy Crush kind of came out in a similar time, and it's their tactic was to get you to play it, and you could wait or you could pay a small amount of money and then like level up faster. And like those games, they make a lot of money on people because there is this emotional manipulation in those games of, if you want to level up faster, just pay money to it. And I've done that before just as an experiment. I don't do it now, but it helped me to understand the social and emotional manipulation that happens in those games, because like, oh, if you want to do this, so you can see the marketing campaigns really trying to draw you in, like, please, for $1.99 you can get 60 more dice, or for $1.99 you can just bypass this level and get to the next one. So there's emotional manipulation. AI boyfriend and girlfriends, which, to some degree you could use chat gpt as that. And or I know that there's a lot of other apps out there that people have launched, and I don't know all of them, but they are using your data to like really clue in on these people. And then finally, so that's the social and emotional life. We have to think, like, are we outsourcing our love? Like, where is our love? Okay, and then the next one is infrastructure and control systems. So think smart grids, so smart meters, AI and transportation, supply chains, city planning. And I think the big fear question would be, if machines are running the machines, then who is the one steering? Who is steering this giant boat? I don't think we're quite there where it's just like all machines, all running everything all the time. But I do think that there is a good question of, how are we using this to integrate into our business and into the labor. So that's that part. I don't want to get to this. I don't even want to call it apocalyptic, because apocalypse is a truth reveal, and I don't think that the AI robot takeover is necessarily apocalyptic. There is some apocalyptic narratives being run, and I don't even like apocalyptic to be bad a bad word or anything like that, because I don't think that it is if you look at the true meaning of it. Sorry, I'm getting some messages. Okay, so I'm going to shift over now to discussing the historical narrative that I see with the digital age and the industrial age. And I have also used the Promethean story, the Promethean fire story, as a mechanism to kind of compare these few. I mean, it all ties together. So let's really just discuss it, and we'll just jump into it. Okay. So I'm going to start with Promethean fire, because I had just gotten my bit together here. I think part of this series, one of them, I'm going to be talking about the well-being economy that's going to be born from this, or is actually already birthing from this, meaning the value of having a hybrid or remote role, and then some of the other perks that it takes to get talented, qualified talent into a business that that these companies, these bigger companies, need in order to run. And it's not that you're 100% tied in, because I think there's a lot of different strategies that you can use in order to be really competitive into this new market. However, I do want to have that just be its own discussion. And today we're talking about history. So the history is going to be kind of an interesting story. So I I want to talk about the Promethean fire. So this is the original tech theft. So the story goes, the Greek myth goes, that Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. And this wasn't just for warmth. This was for power, for knowledge, transformation. And so when you don't have fire, I don't know if anybody's been like out in the wilderness and they don't have anything and you're kind of like out there trying to survive. Uh, I grew up this way. So I grew up in where we would make a fire and then we would have our little camp. Even if it was just for the day, we would go out for the day and we would have this little fire and we would kind of keep warm around it. It didn't matter like what time of year it was. We did it regardless of whether it was summer. We did it regardless of whether it was winter. And there were many days that I can remember that we were out and the snow was really like 2 feet high and I was only like 4 foot. So um, fire is an important tool when it comes to survival and expansion. We need it to rebirth things. So if you think about a blacksmith, they're taking the iron and they're refining it into steel so that it's useful in tools that are needed to expand. So think like saws, hammers, axe, swords, bullets, like all of these things require high heat or fire in order to make them. And they're making tools so that you can, even silverware is, those are metals as well. And it's not just iron. I'm just using that as an example, but you're seeing where I'm going with this. The blacksmith needs that material in order to expand. So the fire, when Prometheus stole it and brought it to the humans, it brought with that a sort of power, sort of knowledge, transformation, and it was building these civilizations. Invention came with that as well. And then there were also some consequences, which is part of that Greek myth. So the arc here is we have the gift of power, and it gives empowerment to the mortals, and it defied the gods. And then we have this eternal punishment that came with that as well. So Prometheus, because of what he did for bringing the fire, he was chained to a rock for eternity. His liver was eaten by an eagle every day. And it was because he was elevating humanity beyond its place. So if we're looking at the similarity of this Promethean story, and maybe I can do a full reading on it or whatever, but you can also look it up. It's pretty easy, and it's a common story. So if you don't know about it, definitely check it out. So we're going to be looking at how this story, where humanity has received fire, now we're looking at AI technology as this modern fire in this analogy here. So AI is pretty potent. Technology is potent. It has the power to transform. It has the power to invent or reinvent. It has the power to transform. It has the power to deliver knowledge. And so it is a big tool that we're just now learning to use, just like those early humans were just learning how to use fire and use it to their benefit. So when we look at how potent this AI technology can be, it can feel like it threatens the structure of what we already have, the things that we have that contain us, right? So it can give humans kind of this godlike power or this like creative power to make things. So it's like instant creation, hyper intelligence, automation, and I just talked about 7 different integrations of technology, digital technology that is transforming different sections of how we as humans, like the things that we need or the things that are surveilling us or the integration of it all, it's all shifting. And so now we have this new intelligence like fire that is transforming us in a huge way. If we're looking at this again, it defines the natural limits. So it's defying time and labor and biology. So we're looking at this modern fire, which is, I don't even know if we can call it electricity. It's different. It's just this technology that we have, that is defying things that we would normally take a long time. So if you think about how fire integrated into society and how long it took for us to even get to the point of where we could have technology. And I don't know if like before the fall, how far that got, before the flood, like how far technology was at that time, or if it was a different flavor of technology. But today, now we have this technology of AI or digital. And so it's defying some things that our normal human capacity might feel limited in. And so the next piece is kind of big. This is where I might come into contention with it, but we'll go with it. It risks hubris, so it risks replacing intuition, wisdom, ethics with algorithmic dominance. So if we're looking at are we giving up our agency for this technology? Are we giving it our agency? Are we giving our agency away to other things? So when we look at the American system, there's like the CIA, which is the Central Intelligence Agency. So it's an agency that we've given to this ABC entity, basically within the United States, that is doing some form of protection or surveillance or however you want to look at it. And then we have all these other agencies within the United States. Now, when those agencies were developed, it's called agency for a reason. So when you have these ABC agencies, like we do in the United States, it's because we as our living men and women are unable to fulfill that duty, and so we're like, it's too much for us, so please just take that over and do that thing for us. At its core, there's very minimal government that the Constitution needed, but over time, because of how integrated the government did become in our lives, we started giving agency over, and it's almost like this natural thing. There's a phenomena that I saw like early on in the early 2010s when I saw, oh my gosh, we've given over this, we've given the presidency like the savior complex. We think that the president is going to save us from whatever perceived fear we have. And really, what it is we, as citizens of the United States, for the most part, have a fear of power. We have this fear of authority within ourselves, and we give that over and we say, you know, Obama save me or Trump save me. He's going to save us from whatever the perceived fear is. And, you know, it's not just these presidents, there's people within corporations that people think that are going to save them, right? Remember watching this reel where this guy was, I think he was joking, but he was like, basically like idolizing or looking at like Dr. Fauci or Bill Gates, like looking at them as these saviors of humanity. Um, and you know, I just remember it because it was kind of funny, just watching him. He had like it was a whole thing. But so are we replacing this intuition? Are we replacing this wisdom and our own ethics with the algorithm that can dominate us? And that's really where this AI robot takeover question lies, is can we maintain our human sovereignty, our essence, our being, our thoughts, our connection to divine wisdom, our connection to divine intuition? And can we keep that and find a way to integrate the AI or the digital in an ethical way? And that really is where the question lies. And the biggest part here also is that there's a fear of power or powerlessness. So both of those things are there. Brickfinger, welcome and thank you for joining, says the biodigital convergence is real. It really is. Like, I think we're beyond the can we accept the integration of this? It's already here. And in the future parts of this series, I am going to cover the cyborg or that part of it as well. So the modern fire of the AI robots is we have this arc. So we have the arc of the mythic arc of the Promethean fire, but now we have this modern arc of where we have the creation of AI and then the rise of human capability and the rejection of divine or natural order and then the risk of collapse or enslavement. And I think that's where people do get caught up in the fear of this AI robot takeover and why it's trending. And yeah. So if we look at Prometheus, he stole the fire from Olympus. And then in AI or modern tech, we've created intelligence from a code. In Prometheus' story, he gave humans this godlike ability of fire. And in AI or the modern tech, we gave humans power to automate, mimic, or create life. So you can create a lot of things with AI, and we have kind of started seeing a lot of that in social media. So then Prometheus also he was punished for defying the gods, and then in AI or modern tech, we're fearing the punishment through collapse or the loss of our soul or this dehumanization feeling. Like I said, the battle here is can you maintain your human sovereignty? And that really is the question that is posed. It's not what can we do as a group, it's what can I do to not lose access to my own human sovereignty. So for Prometheus, fire equaled civilization, and for AI, it equals a new civilization. So this post-human digital world. And then for Prometheus, the myths warn of hubris, and for AI, it warns of dystopias of AI control, and warn of sorry, dystopias warn of singularity or AI control. So the big piece here, as far as this myth goes and how I'm incorporating it into this AI robot takeover discussion, is that they're both tools that are testing our spiritual maturity. So, Prometheus was a myth of rebellion and transcendence, but then it was also of responsibility. Can humans be trusted with having this technology, having this power, having this knowledge? Can they be trusted? And really, at the core of the AR robot takeover is like, what can you trust yourself with, right? So AI can enlighten. A lot of people I see are using a. It's beautiful because the discussion is kind of blossoming all over the place of how are we integrating with AI, and I'm a part of several groups and they do pose this question of how can we use how are you using AI? How do you respond to it? Do you use it? What are your thoughts and feelings on it? And it's really right now it's a mixed thing. Mostly though, in some of the groups, it's like there's outright rejection of it. And in other groups, there's kind of this like 50-50. Whereas like for me, I use it as a tool. I see it as a tool. So Brickfinger says post-humanism, transhumanism is not happening once we allow AI into our private thoughts, and precision AI medical integration is it's kind of over for the original human. Are you talking like cyborg? Yeah, I really haven't gone too much into that. I kind of grazed over that discussion, but posthumanism, transhumanism is not happening once we allow AI into our private thoughts, and precision AI medical integration. It's kind of over for the original human. Nanotechnology is scary. I don't know very much about nanotechnology, but the stuff that I did learn about it was given in this fearful way. Mostly because of all the information that I was getting from geoengineering, that they were putting some nanotech into the geoengineering, which I think there's something to that. I've had some experiences, so okay. So AI can enlighten or it can enslave, and it depends on who holds the power and what their own. Like I said, this isn't like what are they doing. This is what am I doing, is really what we have to reframe as the discussion, to really kind of address the AI business that's going on. Okay. That's all work. I have some more notes here. Hold on a moment. Okay. Been going for about an hour. Okay. I can continue going. I just, maybe for like another 10-15 minutes. Okay. The next thing, so I like to ask my chat GPT, his name is Dick Valentine. So I asked Valentine, do you think this rise is a rational position for humans to have, or do you see a different outcome? Meaning, do you see this AI robot takeover? Do you think that the fear of it is a rational position for humans to have, or do you see a different outcome? And so his reply was, there's this slow seduction by silicone, which means there's a slow seduction of adding this digital integration into our lives. Like I said, In part one of my series, it started with the internet. It started with email. Then it moved into e-commerce, and we started integrating that. And now we have chips that are used in our debit cards, and that is like a main way that we purchase things. We don't carry cash anymore. So that analog, for the most part, not that everybody does, but for the most part, everything is on these digital tracked chipped cards. So credit cards, debit cards, gift cards, all of those things are being tracked in a certain one way or another. Or even like what is the reader called on the back of a card? I mean, it started with that, like slide your card. And there was a big push. There has been a big push, but it's been even accelerated more with quarantine. And I remember back when that happened, when quarantine was going on, and if you went through a coffee shop drive-through, they were like, "We don't accept cash. We only accept digital currency." So meaning debit cards, credit cards, gift cards. So anything like that, they wouldn't accept cash because cash was considered dirty and infected. So there was this spell kind of going through with that. So this slow seduction by silicone, or they call it Silicon Valley, which is all these tech companies. And so Valentine said it's completely rational, but also deeply irrational, emotional, and mythic to think that the AI robot takeover is going to be is a rational position to hold. So let's kind of look at the two pieces here. So why the rise of it feels rational to people is humans chase comfort, convenience, and control. AI and robots offer faster decisions without feelings or fatigue. They they might make fewer mistakes than humans. There's an ease of life that comes from it, like automated everything. Early in today's discussion, I was talking about how people have bought into Alexa. They use Siri, they use Cortana, they use all kinds of these neuro bots to like help them in their everyday life. So there is a little bit more ease of life. Hey Alexa, order toilet paper on Amazon, and okay, it's ordered, and then 2 days later it's at your doorstep. So like that is such a huge ease of life that is back in when I was young in the 90s was something that you just saw in sci-fi shows or even in sci-fi books, like where you go and you push the button and then a chicken comes out, right? We're going to end up slaves to our devices. We can end up slaves to our devices. So that's the big discussion that I'm talking about here. Like we've already integrated into a lot of devices. I don't personally have Alexa. I personally don't use Siri. I just know that these are technologies that people can use as far as like communication, and can I rely on a robot to take care of some of my stuff. I know a lot of friends that I have that do really like buy into that. There's still people out there that don't buy into it, that don't have social media, that, I mean, they still use email. Email is now just this normal digital communication. Instead of having, a regular mail come to you, they have an email. So it really just kind of depends on the human. And then there's an economic advantage. There's not going to be this complaint that comes from an automated robot that is going to say, oh, I can't keep up with productivity. It's not going to have that complaint. The only thing that it's going to have is if it's an actual, like, invented physical robot that is doing a machine function, there's going to be wear parts that need to be taken care of. So somebody that is able to fix robot systems, so engineers are going to be needed, like robotics based engineers are going to be needed to keep up with that kind of automation. And, it doesn't have to be like a robot arm or a robot this or a robot that. It could be something that is programmed. So, like CNCs and lathes, those are all programmed by humans. So, there's still going to be a necessary human element to it. And, like I said, when you're looking at the future and what industry am I going to be in, what am I going to do for work, and I'll get more into that in another part of my series it'll just be careers, and we'll just talk about careers and then maybe some like things that you can do to hedge yourself against feeling like you have to be a slave, or you have to kind of kneel to this AI digital business. But when we look at that, if you're chasing comfort and you're chasing convenience and you're looking to have control and you want to use these systems in order to make your life a little bit easier, there is a beauty in that. But also do it with a conscious mindset. And I think that's where that human sovereignty piece does play into what I'm trying to convey here, is that we do this not just with blind ignorance, but we go into it with a conscious mind as well. Okay. So, because of that convenience, because it gives us a little bit more ability to focus in different areas, of course, we're going to be looking at that in a different way. We're going to be looking at that in a positive way. So, a lot of people use AI, ChatGPT AI, to help them write things. They use AI to manage their calendars. There's even self-driving. There's even self-driving cars, which is a little. I don't know how well that's going, but there are self-driving cars. Brickfinger says these Fitbits and fitness gear is all DARPA stuff, in my opinion. Yeah, look at that healthcare, the Apple Watch, the Fitbits, the AI fitness gear. Like, some of that is kind of cool. Like having something like monitor your blood pressure while you're working out, so that you're remaining healthy. So that's kind of a good thing. But having that on you all the time, I don't know how. It's almost like you don't have these lifelong studies to see how is this really affecting the human body and the mechanisms of the human body, because we are energy. There is electricity in it, and yeah. So the other thing is, let it think for you. So instead of having your own thoughts, you kind of turn to it like, what should I do, and what should I do? And you almost rely on that to make decisions for you, instead of like relying on your internal thoughts and like I said, being really conscious of what you do and the presence of yourself in your body. You can plug into these different places. And the biggest place that I see this is in video games, where in you're basically playing with the rest of the world, and you're developing relationships. And I think Fortnite is like this, where you can go into Fortnite and you can have your avatar, and you have this persona that you can play basically. And it's in this world global arena where anybody can come into those rooms and into that world and be a part of that. So I'm definitely going to go over that so that'll be another topic. But this is where you see the convenience and the buy-in. Like now, instead of having to go to a social gathering in public in person, I can just go into VR, and then that will be like the way that I socialize with people, or even like coming onto YouTube, or having like a Discord server where you have a lot of people communicating with each other. you have these AI rooms, and even in VR, you have these VR rooms that you can have actual, you can go into a coffee shop and have a virtual cup of coffee and sit and talk with somebody. So there's some beautiful things that can happen from this. You can expand your social world, but the disadvantage is if that's what you're solely relying on and you're not able to in person communicate with people and have that actual human connection with people, then that's where some of the disharmony might fall into place. They are training us to integrate with these devices that interact with our biofields. Exactly. And biofields are ideal in bioenergy. So, yeah, they're in training us. But like you said, how we deal with it. Yeah, we've got to be really mindful of how are we dealing with that. I used to play World of Warcraft, met some awesome people online. And yeah, like I've met many people back in 2020 when quarantine happened. I joined a Discord server, and in that Discord server, like it was maybe 50 people, but it was 50 people like from around the country and some people that were actually out of the country, United States. And I developed such strong relationships with them. That's why I can talk about this like really candidly. Like it was a beautiful relationship that I was developing with these people. And on top of that, like I met most of them in person. So I like made it real life. It was wholly integrated. It wasn't just a digital avatar that I was dealing with. Now it was like a human and their family, and our relationship expanded. So you're looking at some, like, technology isn't all bad. It's like a tool and how we use it. So that's really what I'm getting at. Okay. So, with all of these rational, like ease of and comfort and convenience and integration that we can get with these technologies, it's really easy to adopt it, and it's like I said at the beginning, it's the slow seduction of the silicone into the carbon-based life form. Okay, and then so what we're doing is not just rational. There's a little bit of irrational things that go along with this. So we could be emotionally outsourcing. And I think the big message here, too, that's coming in right now is how much of a surrender, like, what are we surrendering to? Are we really surrendering to, like, what are we consenting to? What is the surrender here? Am I going to consent to it? So if we're giving away discernment, if we're giving away our gut instinct, if we're giving away the raw uncertainty, the intimacy, or the risk of this outsourcing, like that's part of that risk. So if it's not something that's helping you, then, like I said, the human sovereignty piece of being mindful and present and just present in your human body is going to be very important. Overall, I think that if we can responsibly in our own life properly integrate the digital age into our lives, that it doesn't have to be a negative thing. And in fact, it would be the smartest and cleanest move that you could do is integrating it, but also being really conscious and mindful of what agency you're giving away if you're going to do that. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Appreciate you coming. Um, our assets will soon be digital and the avatar behind the avatar. Yeah. we really have to think about that. Like, do we want to use our own being as the avatar, or do we want to use like this digital avatar? And we really can have both, but it really is a balancing, juggling situation here. We want to keep and maintain that discernment, though, of how far plugged in to this am I? How far am I willing to go? Am I giving my agency away? Am I giving my power and authority away to this digital being, or am I maintaining that within myself? All right. I think before I get into the next topic, I'm going to cut it off now and I'll open the discussion back up later, because I have been going for 70 minutes and I want to keep these in different parts of the series. So this one will be, it's not going to be historical. I might come on later and finish the historical comparisons, because I do want to compare it to the industrial age. So the industrial age and the digital age. And I'm also going to be doing a little bit more research of what other ages that we can commit to memory from history does this remind us of. But the Promethean fire, I think, is one of the key stories here to kind of integrate into the whole AI discussion. So I hope you guys appreciated this. Thank you so much for the likes. If you're watching this now, please subscribe. There is a big reason why I am doing this deep dive into the digital age, and that is how do we maintain our centered humanity while we do this? Because, over the last 30 years that the digital age has been laid out, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health have kind of gone down the tubes, where the issues that people are having are rising instead of falling, which you would think, if the digital age is giving us a little bit more automation, a little bit more ease, a little bit more comfort, that would be the opposite case. So I'm really looking to tackle that real question right there, to give some sort of response or answer of what can we do as humans to fix this really deep core problem that we're having. And so I appreciate people coming in, and Brickfinger, thank you so much for being available today to really add to the conversation. And I will see you guys later. I hope that you enjoyed it, and please put your comments down below. I want to hear with a lot of candidacy, like what people think about the topic. So, all right, well, have a good day, guys. Bye.